think we will start. So, oh, there we go. We won't start. Come and have a seat, please. We won't start. One more minute.
It's streaming, is it? Not just on Facebook.
Yeah. This is the problem. Facebook's died. There's no good single place to advertise anything anymore. Yeah, but not everyone's on Instagram.
Yeah.
All the old people,
Old
who are more likely to buy books. Yeah, TikTok.
Yeah. If you want teenagers.
Richard, are you on TikTok?
I'm not on anything.
Richard's not on anything.
So
I had to to get in there, I had to post him a letter.
Really the lawyer.
I'm on Gmail. I'm on AOL. Okay, thank you very much for coming along. If anyone else comes, then they're late, and it's their fault for being late, and we'll boo them when they come in. I'm going to move you away from this screen. There we go. So I run a little publishing company called Beyond Cataclysm. If your kids are noisy, by the way, that's fine. That's good. They are welcome, and we'll just talk louder. That's fine. Yeah, I run a little publishing company called Beyond Cataclysm. We're really small. We're barely even a company, really, but it's a laugh, isn't it? Like it's something to do. We do a lot of role play games as well, but our big project last year was ISBN Coffee, which is what we're talking about today. And then I encountered this young man who is in my phone. I could show you if I had that thing. You know the Michael McIntyre show where they show you his phone, like texts to all or whatever. I could show you. He saved in my phone as Nathan Sci-Fi Dude Church, because our first real conversation, he was like, "Yes, I've written a few books." I said, "What?" So that was very exciting. So I read his book and I thought it was brilliant, and I was like, I sort of pushed him, nudged him a bit, and so we have a book. So that's exciting. So we're going to talk about both those things. So yeah, we'll start. Let's go to. Can I make you laptop person and I'll talk? So we'll start talking about ISBN Coffee. So the idea with ISBN Coffee, does everyone know what an ISBN number is? Hands up if you don't know what an ISBN number is. Okay, so when you buy a book, you'll never really notice, but on the back it's got this little barcode. Okay, and it's got this little number on the back. Okay, and that number is an international standard business number, probably, or book number, or something like that. But so it's a number that they get recorded, and then you can put that code in anywhere in the world, and databases will find that number. Okay, so if you're a book nerd like I am, you know what an ISBN number is, but you also maybe like coffee. So the idea was, why don't we do a bag of coffee beans with its very own ISBN number? Okay, can you think of any reasons why you can't do that?
Not a book.
It's not a book, okay? And the international standard book number people get very angry about things that aren't a book using ISBN numbers, and we could probably go to prison, or probably not, but still. So what we did is a companion book to go with the coffee, and then we put that ISBN number on the coffee. You see? A neat little gimmick. But the idea behind it was, there's a Venn diagram. Do you all know a Venn diagram? Like those two circle diagrams of people like cats and people that wear hats. Okay, and then there's people who like cats and hats. Okay, you've got the only hat in the room, so I think that's where that came from. You don't have a cat though. Does anyone have a cat? No. Do you have a cat?
No.
Ah, so you're not in that Venn diagram. Okay, so our thing was that people who like books and people who like coffee, there's probably quite a lot of crossover between those. So we came up with ISBN Coffee, and we put it on the internet, and we said, if you like writing, and if you like coffee, or if you hate coffee, and you want to write about how much you hate coffee, or if you just want to write a story or something that's got coffee in, please do so. And we got, I don't know, about 50 to 100 people wrote in some stories, and some of them were really bad, and we were like, sorry, it's really nice, but we're a bit full. But the ones that made the cut, we got into the book. And so we've got this is the contents page. Obviously it's a bit boring to stand here and learn about a contents page, but what it has got, which I was quite proud of, if you go next page, it's got a key, like a map. Okay, so in here you've got mixes of, lots of art, but you've got some poetry, you've got some prose, which is like stories or writing, and then you've got play, so there's quite a few games in there. And so we're just going to do a few little readings, just to get you a bit of a taste of what's in the book, and just talk about a few things, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so what have we got first? So this is a poem by Carolyn Whitnall that I'm going to read, if that's all right. And I shall try and overpower the children's noise with my voice. How doth the little busy bee recall the small white flower, and gather there more urgently with every passing hour? The Coffea arabicea administers a fix, configured to condition her for reoccurring trips. In works of labour or of skill, I would be buzzing too. Withdrawal headaches sap the will and shaky hands misdo. How many of the schemes and arts that humankind may boast have really been the work of plants, while we were but the host. So that's a nice little poem there. And then this next one is another poem. This one's a poem by me, but if you just get back up. So this I got chatting to some of so we've got quite a few asylum seekers in our church, and I was quite challenged really because I asked some of them. I said one of them did quite a lot. She said, "Oh, I do some paintings," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Well, could you draw anything about coffee?" And if I'm honest, my own little prejudice, a little bit, was just that I'd get a nice drawing, not that I'd get a really, really cool set of bits of art through. I mean, look at the bubbles there, that's amazing. So her art's featured quite a few times in the book. That's Zozo who drew that. But yeah, so I put that next to this poem that I wrote. And I'm pointing this out because it's not mentioned anywhere in the book. And I don't write a lot of poetry, but I quite enjoyed the nerdiness of this. So it's 1 syllable, 2 syllables, 3 syllables, 4, all the way to 10, and then back down to 1. I don't know why, just thought it was fun, but I'm gonna read that one. This is about the experience one has, the relationship you have with coffee every day. It's not that I need this. Optional. A day start addition. Mug castle battlements help ready mental forces. The pause for a slow, steady sip. Preparation, nothing intention. Today has enough troubles of its own. I'm not worrying, nor reliant. Don't need it. Simply enjoy this excuse to stop before the daily busy commences. Stand, rinse out the cup. Was I cleansed too? A little. I am up. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, so we have, I think I've got 2 more things to talk about. Naria's going to do a reading and then we shall move on to Machina Fantasia. So Nathan laughed there because I pause every time I read the title because I kept
things I think unbelievably hard about how to pronounce the title of my book.
I think basically for about a year while we were working on, we've detracted from this, but that's fine. For about a year while he sent me the manuscript, and it was in a folder on my computer of the name of the book, and in my head it was called Machina Fantasia, but it's called Machina Fantasia. But I can't seem to overrule the year I spent mentally reading a name on a computer, so I have to pause every single time. So this was a submission from somebody in America. And the piece of art that goes with it is the first time someone brewed and drank coffee in space. So I think they actually brewed coffee from beans in space, which is a lot of work and probably pretty unnecessary really, but they did it anyway. Okay, bear with, this is 3 pages, so it's not too long, but I'll try to stay interesting. The transporter door opened. I stepped cautiously into Anaflid Sigma lower level, blinking against the harsh lights. I was sore and still groggy from the cryo, but I was finally here, ready for my new job. I had 24 hours before I was due to report in as Assistant Inspector. Plenty of time to explore the lunar spaceport, to find all the cool spots to go to. I stifled a yawn. Coffee. The first thing to find was a place to get coffee. Off to the left, a neon advertisement in the shape of a cup, promising. I headed in that direction. Apart from a few of the menu items and some of the beings on both sides of the counter, this shop would have fit into my hometown on Earth. We'd shared coffee with the galaxy, even figured out how to grow the stuff on other planets, in other systems. Same drinks, same cups, same snacks. Everywhere we went, Earthlings bring our coffee with us. I stood in the queue, scanning the menu board above the counter. My turn came. Zinthars, tits. That's a rude word, sorry about that. Leonie, my head snapped back to look at the barista. Their face was familiar. I frantically scanned my memory. I didn't know many Exolodians, and this one's shade of blue was particularly striking. Tally, is that you? Unless I was wrong, and the bundle of blue-fleshed barista launching across the counter to tackle-hug me suggested I was not. I'd crossed the galaxy to take my first job out of university, and the very first being I spoke to just happened to be the foreign exchange student who'd been my best friend for 2 months in school. We'd lost touch when they went home to Exelon Beta because back then, interplanetary communication was just crazy expensive. After a lung-crushing hug, Tally stood back to examine me. It's so great to see you. A customer behind me was making disapproving looks at us as Tally hopped back over the counter. Let's see, we don't have the mocha stuff right now, but I could do the rest. Is it still? She paused and exercised the uncanny power of the Exolodians, pursing their lips in an exact mirror of my own, only blue and on someone else's face. In perfect mimicry of my voice at age 16, Tally recited, "Big old latte with 2 extra shots, dark roast like my soul," she grinned, and her mouth returned to normal while I fought off a giggle. Before I could confirm that my taste hadn't matured at all, the customer behind me decided he'd waited long enough. Pushing me aside, he approached the counter. Just as Tally, eyebrows raised, held out the cup labelled Horace. The man, Horace apparently, bowed his head sheepishly. "Thanks, Tally," he mumbled in a voice too big and too deep to suit his body. "It's just," he shot me a worried look, "I'm in a real hurry. I've got to leave port as soon as possible." Turning, he scanned the plaza behind us with darting eyes. Tally's eyes narrowed. "Trouble, Horace?" Tally asked tensely, reaching slowly under the bar. Horace looked at me doubtfully. She frowned. "It's okay, this is Leonie. She's... Never mind, just tell me." His shoulders slumped. "It's the Jovian Red," he said. "They're down there, inspecting the ship. They suspect something. They've even brought sniffer droids." Tally pulled a huge blaster gun from out under the counter and hopped over. "You didn't lead with that," they snapped. He looked ready to defend himself, but Tally silenced him with a glance. "You've got the night-night switch," they barked. He nodded mutely. "Hit it." He turned to me. "Leonie, I'm afraid you've been misled. That job you're here for, it's not real. You've been recruited by the TCS, the Transplanetary Coffee Syndicate. We need your skill set on this job. I'll explain more on the ship." My mouth hung open. Before I could say anything, before I could gather any more explanation, Horace pulled out a device from his pocket and the lights went dark. Beings throughout the level started shrieking in confusion. Tally grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the hangars. Weakly, I stumbled forwards, and then Horace threw me over his shoulder and began to sprint. We rushed down twisting corridors, Tally leading like a hunting wolf. "Wait, the TCS? You mean the Bean Runners?" I managed to gasp out. "Yeah, we don't use that name, but yeah, we're the Bean Runners," confirmed Horace. "But they're criminals," I protested. We turned a final corner and pounded towards a docked ship. In the dim emergency lighting, I could make out a group of security crew near an open airlock, several droids nearby. We dived into a parallel gangway and then into the ship. Horace dumped me into a seat. "Buckle up," he said, and started pulling levers. "Some say criminals, anyway. Some say heroes. The Corp lied to us. There are whole planets where coffee's illegal. 0 imports allowed." This was news to me. Mankind gave the galaxy coffee, and the Corp took it back. We just correct the balance. Tally took the seat next to Horace. "Tracking still out, go for it." G-Force pushed us into our seats as Horace manoeuvred the ship towards the opening gate. Teeth gritted, Tally turned to me. "This isn't the start I had planned, but welcome to the TCS. We're lucky to have you." 2 bright lights glowed painfully bright in the view screen. Missiles screaming towards us, and then darkness as we jumped away into light speed. And that, my friends, is how I joined the Resistance. Okay, so we'll have Naria do a reading in a second. If you're bored by reading, I'm looking at Jonathan there, but if stories don't grab you, it's also full of games, this book. So has anyone played the Chinese game Go? YK? Anyone played Go? Just me. Okay, Go is amazing. Have you not played Go?
I've played it, but I can't say
You're not an expert, no.
Yeah.
This is not as good as Go, because I made it up rather than like 10,000 years of Chinese people playing a game. But this is a competitive board game that you play with coffee beans. So we actually designed this book so that game is in the middle. So you can fold it open and you can use that as the board, and you can use coffee beans from your ISBN coffee to play a little competitive game where you try and, it's quite simple, it's quite fun. It's designed that you can play it twice in 10 minutes, so that you can see who's best while you're drinking your coffee. What's next? Okay, Naria, NG Lowry, would you like to stand up and read your book? Round of applause for Nia. Yeah. Page 90.
Steam swirls upwards, spiraling elegantly into the great beyond. I breathe out, an R that sends my own clouds of condensation up into the crisp air. Coffee is such a relief to a careworn survivor, cast into the midst of nature's reviews. Those few blissful moments sipping coffee should be appreciated more than any other. Yet always, deep down, I'm aware this is a distraction, another nothingness. I can't and shouldn't let myself be fully drawn away from the harsh reality of the wilderness. A mournful howl echoes through the forest. There are wolves abroad. A yawn takes me. I decide to settle down. I hope for sleep, but remain unsuccessful. I lay there on the verge of consciousness. A snuffle and a grunt approach my hiding place. Don't come any closer, was my neighbour. Though I'm too beautiful to die was another question for her. I have to do something. I rack my brain and try to think. Of anything. My head is cold. Everything seems harder. Desperately, I latch onto a solution. Everything's solution. Coffee. There was an immediate choice to make. Would I waste my heavenly organic roasted beans, or use the terrible cheap stuff that I had shoved down my colour for emergencies? Hard to choose. How does Mr. Wolf take his coffee? The enchanting aroma of well-made coffee fills the air, flooding my nostrils and engulfing my thoughts. I use the good stuff. Sadly, this time, the drink is not destined for my taste buds. It is the only hope of a truce. Armistice between me and the snarling, bloodthirsty canine kingdom. Here goes everything. I step into the crisp midnight air and hope for rest. Placing the cup in front of the beast, I wait, wondering if it's all in vain. If it is, at least I die knowing that the last thing I did was make a decent cup of coffee. It sips.
So yeah, as mentioned, there's a few games in here. So we've got lots of little role play games. We've got some journaling games in there. This one was submitted by one of my friends, who's the ex-editor of Tabletop Gaming magazine. So he's quite into games and like thinks outside the box. And this game is, I think it's pretty unique. So it's a journaling game. So you like write a story, but the way that you decide what you do, if you go to the next page, is you think back to how many coffees did I have yesterday? Okay, and then you think about how many coffees you've had. That defines what your character is. Okay, so then you think, but then what you do is once you've started playing, you put the game down and you forget that you're playing. And your next move happens a day later, a week later, a month later, when you remember that you're playing the game. And then you think at that point, what was my last coffee like? Did I have my last sip of coffee? Was it a long sip? Was it a little short one? Did I down the whole thing? Was it what was the temperature? Was it hot? Was it cold? How did it taste? And then you define what happens next to your character by how your last sip of coffee was that you drank when you forgot you were playing the game. And then you stop again and wait until another day when you remember you're playing the game again. So it might take you a month to play the game, but I'm so used to games that involve rolling dice and stuff like that, and using coffee that you drank when you didn't know you were playing the game is quite funny. So yeah, I think that's everything we have to say about this. I have one more thing. Dom, if you want to come in, there's chairs here.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. There's a chair there and here. Just come and sit down.
I feel guilty sitting down.
You don't have to. Like everyone else can come and sit down as well. You don't have to stand. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4 chairs. There's lots. Fine. I'm going to move on. So one final thing to say. So we will have this book for sale and Machina Fantasia and a few other bits and pieces. Today is one of the few chances you have to buy ISBN Coffee because we found a printing error in one of the books. So some of the pages were in the wrong order. So we posted, well, the printing company collected about 500 copies. I think we printed 600 or 700, and they took nearly all of them back to search in their warehouse. And then they had them for like 3 weeks, and we were like, come on, can we have them back? And the guy was off sick and stuff like that. When we eventually got hold of them, they'd accidentally destroyed all of our books, which is hilarious. So we actually got a full refund. So the books that we have are some ones we kept aside, but if you don't buy them today, and there's no pressure to buy them today, you'll get a different printing at some point in the future. But yes, there we go. I think the true sign of success is pulping all your books before you've even launched it. So thank you very much. Over to Nathan.
Hello everyone, I am Nathan Philpott. I have a short story in ISBN Coffee. It's about a time loop, if you want to read that. And I'm also the author of Machina Fantasia. Like the term Deus Ex Machina, not Deus Ex Machina.
Or Deus Ex Machina.
Or Deus Ex Machina, yes. So as Chris suggested, I had already written this when we met. I wrote it in November of 2021. Yes, just throughout the 1 month, as part of National Novel Writing Month, which is a challenge to write a 50,000 word novel over the course of the 30 days of November. Definitely forgot how many days were in the month of November right then. So I produced that. I had it proofread by a friend who then lost their proof copy, so proofread again. And then stuck it online where exactly 3 people read it, one of them being my mum. So I sent this to Chris once it was fully posted online. He gave it a read, and then from that moment on was just like, yeah, we should turn this into a real flesh and blood book that you can like set fire to, etc. And that is the end result here. There was a lot of work going into just the. I had to learn a lot about formatting and printing and margins, and had uncomfortable discoveries like the colour orange on the cover looks different in real life than it does on my computer screen, and lots of things like that. But yeah, I'm not to blow my own trumpet, I'm reasonably pleased with the result. So I'm going to, just to give you a taste of what it's like, I'm going to read from the first chapter. Feel free to pick a copy and read along if you like. Free-round soldier, unit SP-101-456-KE, otherwise known as Spool, was nervous. Machine bodies responded in interesting ways to the emotions the CPUs within them decided to feel. In the case of nerves or anxiety, their bodies were designed to interpret this as instruction to prepare for combat. Gears would begin to spin with greater speed, and internal power supplies would increase their output. All so that when combat inevitably began, the machine would be ready for it. Being destroyed while still warming up was an embarrassing way for things to end. Of course, this increase in activity produces a lot of energy that, if not being used for combat at that very moment, has to go somewhere. As such, nervous, otherwise stationary machines would shake slightly in a state that someone, somewhere in the cosmos, might call shivering. This shaking in turn generates a lot of noise. If an area had an unusually high concentration of nervous machines, then a listener would be treated to a continuous hum of quiet clinking punctuated by the occasional rattle. The trench, at the edge of the free-man side of No Machines Land, was an area with an incredibly high concentration of nervous machines. In fact, it would be safe to say, Spool thought with one processor that couldn't quite read the mood, that this trench might just have the highest concentration of nervous machines in the entirety of Machina. This thought caused Spool to, despite himself, emit a small, sawtooth wave that one could deem to be similar to a chuckle, if they'd never heard laughter before. You're thinking something superfluous again, the machine next to Spool said. Despite the phrasing of the comments, it came without a single hint of disapproval. Just passing the time, Spool responded. Don't get too distracted. We need to be ready to charge the moment the signal is given, the machine advised. While there were still no traces of disapproval in the voice, it had taken on a decidedly bossy tone. This didn't bother Spool. He knew that this machine couldn't help it. She was formally titled Free Ram Soldier Unit SS-101456LD, though was addressed as Wheel for brevity, and was Spool's sister unit. Machine's criteria for who constituted a relative was somewhat strict, since they were all constructed in the same production line, deep within the bowels of Alicia. Or at least that's where all Free Ram machines came from. So in a sense, all machines were related. But Spool and Wheel were different. They'd been constructed specifically to work together. In his hands, Spool held a long metal pole with a serrated blade attached to the top. He was a pike unit. Wheel had no pike, and indeed no offensive weapon of any description. Instead, she carried a smooth shield that was slightly taller than her and over twice her width. The increased width was because the shield was not only for protecting her, it was protecting Spool too. The two short machines were built to fight, built to face the oncoming hordes of the Odeon machines alongside each other. We're going to skip just a little ahead. Don't die, Spool said to Wheel. It was all he could bring himself to say. Wheel simply nodded, and the siren sounded once more, now a continuous wailing, the order to charge. As one, the machines in the trench emitted a piercing electronic cry, "For a free Machina!" Spool and Wheel joined in the yelling as Wheel pulled herself up over the lip of the trench. The booming of the artillery had already begun. Wheel made it out of the trench and took cover behind her shield, signalling to Spool with her free hand. Spool climbed up, his view of the battlefield no longer obscured by the trench wall, but now obscured by Wheel's shield. Ready? Wheel yelled over the sound of battle. It was Spool's turn to simply nod. The two of them charged, accompanied either side by hundreds of machine pairs and tens of larger machines lumbering along behind. Now Spool could see the battlefield ahead, or more accurately, the smoke and dust that was already thick in the air. The ground vibrated and shook as the Odeon shells hit over and over. Spool heard strangled yells of static all around, fellow Free Ram soldiers falling into enemy attacks. To one side, there was the familiar orange glow of a machine whose oil had caught alight. It was a slow and horrible way to go. Finally, Spool! Before he'd really registered what was going on, Wheel shunted Spool aside. While they were roughly the same height, Wheel was designed to inflict blunt force, and her push sent Spool rolling away. This didn't prevent him from seeing what Wheel was what Wheel had pushed him out of love. A spiked metal ball collided with Wheel, and even with a shield between her and the projectile, the impact was brutal. Wheel was sent flying backwards, her arm tore itself from its socket, flying off into smoke, with a large shield still clutched in his hands. Wheel, Spool jumped to his feet, and before he'd taken more than a step or two towards his sister, she burst into bright orange flame. She caught a light. Spool watched in horror as his sister screamed and writhed and burned, rolling in agony on the broken ground, black smoke billowing from her and filling the air. It was perhaps a small mercy that Spool did not have to watch his sister die for much longer, as an axe-wielding machine cleaved his rounded head clean off. Spool shut down too quickly for him to even register what had happened. His lifeless head, with its now dull, unseeing eyes, hit the ground near his collapsed body and rolled away. It came to a stop near a group of fallen Odeon machines, now all nothing but debris. So, as you can tell, it's like a minute. It was, I'd read and, what's his name? C. Robert Cargill's book, A Sea of Rust, which is a similar book about a world populated entirely by machines. And also the game Near Automata, which is again about this millennia-spanning war between two sets of robots, and kind of found myself thinking, more than having a plot, I just very much wanted to write a story that was a kind of an epic fantasy story set in a world populated entirely by the droids from Star Wars. Hence the rather blunt title, which roughly translates to machine fantasy. From there, I began to kind of work on that would look like. So there is a hero chosen and prophesied to come. He's a robot. There's an evil emperor who is also a robot. There are strange, dangerous creatures which, you guessed it, are also robots. I ended up taking quite a large inspiration from what I knew about World War I as well. I find that in terms of, if you're trying to kind of give off the idea of a conflict that is both horrible and pointless, World War I is kind of a pretty great way to go, and it did mean that I could use the term "no machines land" quite a bit. This has been, we've printed off 100 copies earlier this year, and then they've been distributed out to the people who crowdfunded the printing of that book. But there are at least 50 or so still available for sale if you want them. And also ISB coffee, of course.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Nathan. It's very readable. It's I think it's got quite a lot of humour in it. Like I feel it's a bit like the Scutters from Red Dwarf trying to navigate a geopolitical conflict.
Did anyone understand that?
Yes.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay, good. It's a good read. We also we have a couple of extra bits. We sell loads of books on our website as well. If you like role-play games or board games, this is I did a series of articles for Tabletop Gaming Magazine. This is called Read It Played, which gives you. So there's lots of YouTube channels out there that teach you how to play games in a very mechanical way, and this is completely the opposite of that. So it teaches you how to play games terribly. It's a completely awful way, but it teaches you like the emotion and the vibes of playing games in a kind of a narrative form. And we have. Some of you came to our book launch 2 years ago, including you, Jonathan. What was your favourite story from the book you bought at that book launch?
The part where I didn't read it.
Yeah, the part where you didn't read it.
I read it.
That's fine. I have many books in a pile next to my bed. The pile next to my bed has now begun to obscure the light switch, so I've had to kind of do a double pile. Not reading books is a fine narrative and literature tradition. But this is a whole set of 37 short stories, all of which are from 100 to 1,000 words. So I describe it as a good toilet book because all of the reads could be got through in one little sitting, and the paper's nice and thin and absorbent as well, so that's good. If you would like to buy anything, feel free not to buy anything, or feel free to check our website. But we have copies of ISB and Coffee for £10, which is reduced just for today. If you want to get some coffee with it as well, which is all provided by Dick's Bean Bar, all ethically sourced and freshly ground to whatever grind you want. Those are £6. Machina Fantasia is £8.
Yep.
Is £8. The Die Decides is £8. Okay, my beautiful assistant's just.
I'm sorry, I'm being very slow.
That's fine. And Read It Played is £6. And if you want all of them, then we'll do that and make it cheaper. So, I don't know. Does anyone have any questions?
Know everything there is to know.
That's good. Yes, ISBN-T will probably happen at some point as well. But yeah. Hopefully we won't get it pulped before we release it. But thank you. Round of applause for you guys for coming. Thank you. Thanks very much. Do please say thanks to Rob downstairs, who both was in our Kickstarter video really uncomfortably and unwillingly, and also has hosted today for free for us. So yeah, really appreciate it. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you all.
We have got credit card and we don't have Machina Fantasia at home. We can buy it. Oh, I do have it on my pile, actually, you're right. The thing is, I haven't read it because I've read it. That's the thing.
I also have not read my own book.
Yeah. I have read it.
Hello, stranger. Okay.
You don't
Not too bad. Yeah.
I didn't recognise you until I brought you back over the
Yeah.
Right, mate, I've just had my hair cut.
I'm in different needs on something.
Yeah, life's busy.
Behaving yourself.
No. When do I behave myself?
7 people, D&D guys. It's been a while.
Yeah. For a few years.
Yeah.
You still go to the Warrington games?
to the Warrington games.
My brother was there. Laurie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right, sorry.
Every time I used to go, they lost. So I stayed away, and they won.
Yeah.
It's the same with going to Wolves. I mean, every time I watch them, they lose. So I might as well just stay away. Get barred from a few pubs.
We just leave them behind all the time. We had
last time I did coffee.
we had
Okay.
We have a cover sheet that
It's not working, so you just change it.
so everyone went down.
So you're 2 now.
Sainsbury's.
So it's Sainsbury's. Wow.
They've been here 10 years in August.
You've got less time.
Yeah,
for doing
well,
murder.
they're the only ones that survive.
I say you've got less time for doing murder.
Yeah, that's what people say.
I jumped off this for the next 3 turns.
Yeah, I've got. Where's the?
Just about survived. I came very close to start changing my pockets. Nathan was enjoying himself far too much. A bit confused.
You're still able to get around alright, yeah?
Walking's a bit worse, but
Yeah. I was surprised to go up these stairs.
yeah. Fortunately, there's a banister going up and I can hold on to the other wall, so.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Do you want it too?
Is it easier going up than going down?
I'll let you know when I get back.
Yeah. It all depends if you're left-handed or right-handed.
Yeah, I'm left-handed, so.
I'm
Be
left-handed.
famous.
I
Pull
struggle.
myself up.
My own.
Yeah. Because the banister rail's always on the right side. I thought,
Yeah, that's the
Flying visit.
awkward.
yeah, we can do, yeah. Like that's our website. We've also got 2 podcasts.
When I'm going upstairs, I'm going to grab hold of.
We explain because
Only when going down.
Angie explains first person.
Right,
So we're not
research,
like, oh, you know how to
Yeah,
play
yeah.
this. It's like, what is a dice? It's like our first one. Yeah, kind of for dummies, but actually more. That's just free. Actually more less for dummies and more. Basically, most people who play role playing games play Dungeons and Dragons, which is a really specific style of play. And it's 1 out of like 10,000 games. And so what we actually do is just say, what are the ways you can deal with dice? So like one of them, like that thing where how you set costs, like how you randomise things doesn't have to be using a 20-sided dice. Like so D&D, that's how you play it. Like, whereas we've got a game that we sell that uses a 13-sided dice. I love that. I planned that. We'll have to retake that 10 times. But, yeah, so we talk about stuff like death and like there's I think and what we do a live play at the end of each episode. So we did where whoever I'm doing it with, like the different designers on the role play game scene, whoever I'm doing it with, we play out the thing we've talked about. So like death. We made a character die instantly, and then we did a eulogy, and so we like talked about this goblin and how much he meant to us. So we did like a flashback to him at university and stuff like that. Like all of which is just completely not actually in any like official system. But it's fun, mate. It's really interesting. No, I haven't played much until a few years ago. Yeah, feel free to check them out. If you go on our website, if you go to the shop, and there's Beyond Cataclysm Publications, and those are our ones, and then we sell about 400 other books, so, but those like 8 are ours.
One of our really seen.
Nah, I haven't done yet. It'll be something that happens. Yeah, Amazon is just it's an interesting horrible monopoly basically. Like, as in, so it's actually really hostile to people selling them. Like as in. So what you really have to do is you have to what they want you to do is have them use your work. They print them really low quality. Like, as in, but then if you want to sell your work, you have to send them to a warehouse.